I just want to talk a little bit about Juneteenth and what it means to me. Last year, we celebrated Juneteenth in this chamber, and it meant something. And this year, I think people now recognize across the country that Juneteenth is something that we should remember and recognize. And I'd like to put that in context of Michigan. So General Granger, who you've just heard a little bit about, started his career as a military officer in Detroit. He commanded Union volunteers from Michigan in the 2nd Cavalry. He made his chops leading Michigan soldiers, leading people who came from this state who we represent. And when we come into the Capitol in the rotunda, you see American flags. Often we say Union flags, but those are American flags that you see downstairs. And until 1908, the flag of the 2nd Cavalry, the one that General Granger led into combat, stood there. But it came up missing after a reunion in 1908. As we talk about history and times and how all these things have changed, it's important to put in context the sacrifices and the lessons that we've learned. And through this discussion, so many people say, well, we can't erase history. And I don't ever want to see history erased because there's so many lessons that people learned. And the biggest is that though something may be on the books, until it's enforced, until good people stand up and say it is a reality, it doesn't matter, because there were Black people enslaved all across this country that were not set free when a Republican president said they were free, until people who otherwise were not involved stepped up to be involved. And those were Michiganders. And Michigan has an opportunity again to lead as we move forward in how we respond. The reason that we honor history and that we remember is so we don't make the same mistakes, so we don't forget the lessons that we've learned. And the lessons we learned were so expensive. The lives lost were so many. And Juneteenth says that it took 2.5 years for people to be told they were free. But as a Black man, as someone who has lived in America my entire life and whose family came here not willingly, it's amazing that I survived, that we stand here and are able to talk about these issues that we cannot do alone. And right after that, right after Reconstruction, you saw Black folks take great strides. And then you saw them be pushed back because of Jim Crow laws and a host of other issues. Today, it's easy to feel and to say that things are ready for change because people are saying that Black lives matter, that people recognize that systemic racism is a problem. And I just need your help. And I appreciate my colleague who I share military service with speaking up and talking about this, because this is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a white or Black issue. This is an issue that needs to be addressed as people, because we are the ones that need to solve this. This is something that has to absolutely get done, and I'm looking forward to getting it done. I'm looking forward to it. And when you think about Juneteenth, think about the 4th of July. Think about independence. Think about that idea of freedom, because Black people weren't free on July 4th. Black people weren't free on Juneteenth. And in many ways, there are still so many people in this country that are looking for that freedom, that ability to be included in government, to be protected by government, and for the institutions that we create not to kill us, not to oppress us, not to enslave us. And the reason I say enslave is because the only place that you can still be enslaved is in prison. And as we talk about the criminal justice reforms that are moving through this chamber, as we talk about all of those things, it's important to remember that there are still a host of people who do not know they are free, because the reality on the ground is that they don't have the opportunity to be free. And I know that each and every member of this chamber wants to change that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with you to make sure that every single person in this state and this nation are truly free.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, quickly, I just stand before you asking for the support of Resolution 127. It's available online for your co-sponsorship. All week we've been celebrating, but tomorrow, Friday, June 19th, is where Black America and the country will celebrate Juneteenth. The observance of Juneteenth is about the journey and achievement of Black America from a horrific period in U.S. history of sanctioned enslavement to the pinnacle of human endeavors. It's a story of pride, resilience, and determination that will always be of historical and spiritual significance. As it serves us well to understand that together, we can overcome all obstacles in our path, that we are all responsible for tomorrow, directly and indirectly. Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States, dating back to 1865. And it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with the news that the war had ended and the enslaved were now free. Now take note, this is 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which officially freed all slaves January 1st, 1863. Think about that. General Granger's first order of business was to read to the people General Order Number 3, which began most significantly with, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer." And with those words, our country changed, and we're still changing, and we will continue to change, and striving always to make it right, to make this nation better for all. We have the opportunity to look back at 155 years, give homage to those who have gone before us, those who have paved the road to freedom, many with their lives. We stand on their shoulders. We as a collective from all walks of life are a part of this progress, and we celebrate freedom. Through our celebrations, we reflect on this independence, the grassroots organizing, and the community celebration. We enjoy the creativity and dedication to produce celebrations, from the dinner table to the backyard barbecue, from the neighborhood block party to the citywide parades, from the school cafeteria, the corporate conference room, and hopefully to this Capitol. We encourage everybody to participate in a local event or start their own tradition. It should strengthen the ties that bind us, which should always be the objective. Unity, peace, and ultimately equitable equality are our goals. And as we pay tribute to the journey, we acknowledge the many roles and contributions of Black American spirit to our society. So as we embrace the past as well as the future that only unity, respect, and appreciation can bring, Juneteenth will be celebrated across this nation and beyond, because we are writing the history of our state and our nation. And there can be no greater honor than that. So help write a better history here in Michigan. Thank you. Please publish.
It's no secret that in this chamber we often have adversarial positions on important issues that we're facing as a society and as a state. As a country today, we're still grappling right now with what our history means and how we acknowledge it, both the good parts and the ugly parts. I appreciate my colleagues bringing this resolution forward to celebrate one of the good parts of our national history. Landmark and seminal moments like Juneteenth in our history should be recognized and celebrated by all of us. Unlike today, where news moves instantaneously, maybe even a little bit too fast, across the globe and around the world, it wasn't always that way. And as my colleague from the 4th District already stated, that although the Emancipation Proclamation was signed over 2 years before June of 1865, and the Civil War was largely over in April of 1865, it wasn't until Union troops moved into Texas in June of 1865 that many slaves had their freedoms finally recognized. This resolution today provides us an opportunity to celebrate this historical moment, and I appreciate the Chamber approving this resolution today. Thank you, Mr. President.